just want to get a feel for how familiar this crowd is with crowdfunding in general. So raise your hand if you know what crowdfunding is. Okay, that's almost all of you. Great. Raise your hand if you've contributed to a campaign. Okay. Raise your hand if you've run a campaign. A few of you, great. And raise your hand if you plan on running a campaign soon. Okay, a few of you as well. Great, so I'm Ben Bateman, as was mentioned, and I'm our Associate Director of Hardware Design and Technology. And my job at Indiegogo is actually to help startups who are using our platform figure out how to raise funds through crowdfunding. And so while I will be providing a little bit of an overview of what crowdfunding is and what Indiegogo is and some use cases, a really big part of this presentation is going to be how to actually crowdfund, how to use this tool to make money for your startup. So I want you to walk away with this with a really good idea of what that process looks like and how it might benefit you. So to start, I want to talk about what is Indiegogo. We are the world's funding engine. We were founded with the idea that anybody, anywhere should be able to raise funds for what they're trying to accomplish. All of our founders came up against different funding challenges. One was raising funds to fight cancer, another to produce independent films, and they all ran into two gatekeepers, whether that was a VC, whether that was a banker, somebody who wouldn't give them access to the funds that they wanted. And so now they created this platform where anybody can go to raise funds. And it's a pretty powerful platform. We're global. We're in almost every country on earth, nowhere blocked by US diplomatic sanctions. Anybody can start raising funds on our platform for anything. We're an open platform, so there's no limitations on what you can or can't do. And we also give you open access to data. So you have a huge amount of information on who's giving you money, where it's coming from, and what you can do. And we're also really focused on our customers. Both to kind of a ridiculous degree that our logo is all just based off of our campaigns, but also that we really believe that it's a partnership between a platform and a campaign to make it successful. I think one of the challenges that any crowdfunding platform has is that almost everybody doing this is doing it for the first time. And it is new, and it can be difficult. So I'm here to talk a little bit about how you can approach it and what it can help you accomplish. So why would you choose to crowdfund rather than going to a VC or some other kind of institutional investment? There are a lot of reasons. One is just to validate your market. Is what you're offering people something that they actually want? Usually you have to actually go to market to figure this out. I work with a lot of people in the hardware world, so that can be difficult if you make a warehouse full of products that people don't want. But it can also be challenging if you're a software startup as well. This actually lets you get your idea in front of people and get money from them before you even start. Another reason is capturing data about your customers. And I'm going to go into a lot more detail on this later, so I'll just touch on it now. And finally, of course, it is a way to raise money. You can get a lot of funds without giving away any kind of equity in your business. You're getting this all directly from customers. So to start off, I'm going to talk about the actual campaign. So you go and how the system of crowdfunding works. You put up a campaign on the internet, you share that campaign, and then people come give you money and help your business grow. I'm going to talk about the campaign first, then the perks, what you're offering people in return for contributing, and finally a little bit on promotion. The reason I'm touching on these all, and the things that you're probably familiar with other forms of marketing, because they do take on a bit of a different flavor in crowdfunding, and there are some tricks that can help you be successful. The one big takeaway, and it gets its own slide, is a higher goal does not equal more money. So you set a goal, what you're trying to raise with a campaign, and then you ask people to give you money to help you hit that goal. Most people I talk to say they want to make $1 million or more. It's a large amount, and there's few crowdfunding campaigns that hit that. But setting that goal for yourself to begin with is actually one of the biggest missteps we see. It's very hard to raise very large amounts when you ask for very large amounts. And there's a few reasons that this is the case. One is just that it's less helpful to talk about hitting a high goal. Let's assume I'll hit $1 million in 1 month. And I go launch my campaign, a month goes by, and I hit my $1 million. Like, great, I can pat myself on the back, I hit my goal, and I can tell people I hit the goal I set, it's great. But let's say I set a $100,000 goal. In my first week, I'll hit my goal, maybe multiples of my goal. And at the end of that month, when I hit the $1 million, I can say I hit 10x my original goal. The press loves 10x. VCs love 10x. It's really nice to be able to talk about those multiples. So when you are choosing a goal, think about setting your goal as a way to frame how people are going to interact with your campaign. And if you're confused about what that might be, I just say the lowest amount is going to let you take a meaningful step forward with your business. Next, I want to talk about your video. You probably all, raise your hand if you've seen a crowdfunding video at some point. A few of you. It's a usually less than 3-minute long pitch about what you're trying to accomplish. In some ways, it's like an infomercial, but people are very comfortable with crowdfunding videos in ways that they're not with infomercials. And so what should you say in these? It's really important just to say the basics. Who you are, what you're trying to accomplish. If you have a product, I want to see the product in the first 10 seconds. If you don't have a product, I want to hear a description of what you're trying to do within the first 10 seconds. And it's also very important to describe who you are, what you're trying to do, and why people should trust you. In crowdfunding, people are giving you money now for something you're going to do in the future. And they need to trust that you actually have the skills, have the drive, and have the resources to accomplish that. And so we also want to make sure that people understand why they should trust you, why you have those skills. And you should also say, how is your product, your service going to fit into somebody's life? I think it's very tempting, especially for startups, especially for hardware startups, which I tend to work with, to describe kind of the features, the really specific things that you're doing that are exciting. It might be materials for a hardware startup. It might be a specific set of services for a software startup. But that can really catch people. What I want to see is just a really casual consumer on a crowdfunding site is how your product will make my life better in a very concrete way. Just show me what it's like to live that life. And finally, do include a strong call to action. Say, come contribute to the campaign now. Tell me exactly what I should do, because it can be confusing otherwise, or my attention might wander, or if there are 20 different things happening on the page, I can get distracted by those. And finally, do keep it short. People are on the internet, and they're likely looking at your campaign while they're at work and while they're supposed to be doing something else. So you want to make sure that they can get the idea very quickly and quickly get oriented. And that same idea goes when you're making your actual page. So this is the page for Canary. It's a home security device that launched on our platform in 2013 and raised almost $2 million. Wildly successful, hit almost 20x of their goal, which they have used with VC since, and has been very successful. But they do a lot of things right with their campaign. If you look at the top and the bottom, they just say exactly what it is very quickly. There's no kind of highfalutin language about what they're trying to accomplish. They say, we're the first home security device for everybody. I know exactly home security device, great. They also show this really gorgeous image of their product. So I can see it and I know exactly what it is. My goal on this first scroll, and we call this kind of your above the fold. I don't have to scroll. This is what I see exactly when you load. The goal is just to grab my attention. I'm probably not going to read through your entire campaign like it's a novel or an article, but I'm probably going to skim it to find information that I want. But I'm not going to be willing to skim unless you really hook me in with something exciting. So let's say I do scroll down a little bit and I get here. I think this is a perfect top of the page and hints at the rest of their design. They have another gorgeous product image. They say Meet Canary, and they have really simple language about who they are and what they're trying to accomplish. And I think you're seeing a theme here of simple and straightforward, but it's something that a lot of people have trouble articulating in their crowdfunding campaigns. Next, I want to talk about perks. What a perk is something that I'm offering you in return for contributing. And if we pop back here, you can see this one on the right of the page. They're almost $200 early adopter perk. So I come, and if I give them $200 to go help launch their company, I get their security device in return. Now, if you have a product or if you have a piece of software, what you'll actually offer as a perk is probably really straightforward. It's just what you're making or what you're trying to do. But I think the framework of what you're designing perks for is very important, and it's testing. How many people are familiar with this, the Misfit Shine? A few? Okay. This is an activity tracker. It's small, aluminum disc, runs off a battery, ran on our site in 2012, and raised $880,000 to go and make this. Before they came on, they had over $8 million in investment. They've had tens of millions since, are a giant company selling thousands and thousands of units constantly. They've had a lot of wild success. They did not come to Indiegogo because they needed to raise money. They had access to venture capital, and they knew that they could have access for a larger round. They came to us because they wanted data about their product. They wanted to have information they could use to make decisions. So I'm going to talk about just a couple of the tests and things they found out. One is just the color of their product. You can see this is just a kind of simple silver piece of aluminum. These are ex-Apple designers. They really spent like 8 months designing every aspect of this, and they were really said, okay, we got it down to the simple thing. We don't want anything more confusing. It's more or less perfect, and our customers should realize that and thank us. But so they launched, sold wildly, but people started emailing them right away and said, we want this in black because it's going to look really cool. And they said, well, you know, it's the energization process is expensive. It's going to be $50 more a unit. We weren't prepared for this. But after many, many emails, they said, okay, you know what? This unit is $79, but we're going to add one in at $129, and the only difference is that it's black. And we're going to do 200 of them and just test the waters. They sold out in 48 hours. So they realized a couple things. One, people love colors. So now they've added, now they have a huge suite of colors, and various color combinations sell really well. They realized that being able to customize your color is really important for a fashion accessory, and that they can get really good margins on. So they've done that, incorporated that into their business since. The second thing is how you attach it to yourself. You can see this is held on, it's a little rubber clasp, it has a rare earth magnet, it pops on, and it pops on perfectly every time. It's very easy to attach anywhere. They spent months designing it. They said, this is the only way you'll ever need to wear it. It gets to the functionality of the device without getting in the way of the device. The day they launched, people started emailing them and said, we want a necklace, or we want a bracelet, I want a leather wristband. This wasn't anything they had in mind for their product line, but after a couple weeks, the same thing happened. They said, okay, we're getting so much demand, let's just add in some accessories. Over 30% of their $880,000 came in from accessory sales. More importantly, accessory sales actually have much higher margins than their product itself. So they've opened up a new revenue stream, and it's one where they're making really great margins. And now, if you go on their website, you'll see they have a really wide range of accessories, and they're selling like crazy. And finally, they just realized where their market was. When they ran this campaign, they were targeted only on the US market. Now, they weren't trying to cut off other markets, but they knew they had a limited amount of money to spend, and were just marketing to the US. But over 30% of their contributions came in from outside the US. So they realized that their product had huge international appeal. So after the campaign ended and they raised another round, they decided that from that point, they would start spending a huge amount of money on international marketing. And now they sell more of these overseas than they do in the US. So these are just a few things you can find out from a campaign, and I have thousands of use cases of people who have found out different things. But it's a framework to think about when you're designing your own product and your own perks. And one other thing I want to touch on here is that perks can also help create really strong emotions in people. I think Apple's what I look to here is Apple launches a new product, and before it launches, you have a giant group of Apple fanboys who are telling you that it's the best product that ever existed. And think about how amazing it would be to have that group for your own company. We have people who have run crowdfunding campaigns and used it to bring people in before they even had a product. They're able to connect with their customers and make them feel like they're part of the birth of this company. And once they're that close to the founders, they understand the mission of that company, they're there for the long run. They'll be there when you launch a new product. They'll be excited about it. And so we really try to create what we call the 3 Ps, passion, pride, and participation in customers with our perks. This example here is actually from Mission Cheese, which is a cheese shop in the Mission. I don't know if any of you are familiar. They ran a campaign to launch, and as part of it, you could actually get your name in the sheep mural. So these sheep are all made of the names of people who contributed to this campaign. Now, it's kind of a charming perk. My name becomes part of a sheep. It also draws people into that restaurant. If I go there, I say, well, I'm actually, I'm on the wall here. I kind of help make it happen. So rather than just getting the money and putting someone on a sheet, they've created this base of customers who now want to go there because they're part of the company. So they're actually getting continued business from these contributors far beyond the end of their campaign. They've created this loyal group. And types of perks that you might consider offering if you don't have a product, you can do an experience. We have a lot of people who do mentorship, who do parties. You can do goods or products. So again, that's if you have something easy to offer. You can do a digital good. These are my favorites because you don't have to actually spend almost any money on them. You can see the sketch down here at the bottom was actually from a campaign the Exploratorium ran for new exhibits. So if I contributed $25, I would get access to a digital sketchbook of all the new exhibits before they were out. It's great for me because I'm kind of fascinated at what I'm helping to create, but it's really helpful for the Exploratorium because they're just sharing a link and making money off of it. So it's really cost effective. And finally, do think about fulfillment when you're designing perks. This is one of my favorite stories about the trouble in fulfillment planning. It's from a campaign called Angry Video Game Nerd. This was a movie that raised funds in 2012 and raised over $300,000 to make this YouTube account, Angry Video Game Nerd, into a full-length feature film. And one of the popular perks he had was, for $15, he would actually make you a 5-minute personal thank you video. People love this perk. 3,000 people love this perk. And they made a ton of money, but this creator has spent the last 3 summers every evening making 5-minute personal thank you videos for people. So do think about, your time is valuable as well. Think about what you can do and set a limit if you're not able to do it in a reasonable amount of time. And next, I want to talk about promotion. How do you actually get your campaign in front of people once you've built it? And this is tricky because it operates a little differently than promotion you might be used to because of the campaign structure, raising a percent of goal. And the big metaphor I like to use for this is layers. How many of you, if you launched a campaign today, your family would contribute like first thing regardless of how much you'd already raised? A few people? Okay, great. I know that there's a group of people for me who would contribute regardless of how much I'd raised. It's my family, it's my friends, it's people who might have signed up on an email list because they're excited about what I'm doing. I can tell them when I'm at 0% funds, and they will excitedly come contribute. I might even send me an email saying, oh, I was your first contributor. That's really amazing. You should come thank me for it. But a stranger on the internet doesn't feel that way. If they come and I'm at 0%, they're wondering, why hasn't his mom contributed? Why don't people trust him? Why should I contribute? I need to do some validation. So the trick is, find out what your layers are. Layer 1 might be your closest family, your network, existing customers, people who have already said they're interested in your product. You want to tell them first thing, because regardless of what percent you're at, they want to contribute. But there's other people, maybe your network a little further out, a friend of a friend, your Facebook friends. They'll contribute if they see that you're at a good percent of your group. If you're at 30%, maybe they'll see, great, people have already contributed, they trust this person, I don't need to do all the validation to make sure he's going to do this, and they'll contribute. And then maybe a total stranger wants to see you at 50 or 60%, and then they'll think, okay, great, he's gone really far, I think this is really going to happen, I feel really comfortable contributing. So try to think of what those different layers are and reach out to them in that order. Next, email is the best way to do this. Email has amazing conversion rates. And not only that, you can reach out to people multiple times through email. So the best thing you can have going for you when you launch your campaign is to have a really powerful email list. There's a lot of things you can do to build that list ahead of time. If any of you want to, you can email me. We have a lot of guides on how to do this. But beyond that, social media can also be really effective. I'm working with a campaign right now that makes a pair of high-style headphones who's at almost $3 million because of their extensive social media marketing efforts. Social media might not be the best fit for you if you don't have a strong account already, but it can also be really powerful. I think it's also good to keep in mind the general shape of a campaign, which is a reverse bell curve. You get a really strong group of contributions at the start from all the people you're bringing in early. You get a really strong bunch at the end from all the people who have kind of been watching as this has been happening and wondering, like, do I want to contribute or not, and are waiting until the last-minute deadline to do so. But in the middle, you'll generally have a lull. And so a lot of your planning around a campaign is how you can combat that lull. So I think sharing your campaign with people, encouraging them, running contests, and offering them some kind of perk or promotion in return for sharing your campaign can all be helpful. PR as well, digital marketing. There's a really wide suite of things, but I think the important thing is to plan it ahead of time. Your campaign might last for 30 to 60 days, but most of the work you'll do to make that 30 to 60 days successful happens before the campaign. So do all of this work thinking of who you're reaching out to, who your layers are, what you'll do to combat a lull before your campaign starts. Finally, we do have a lot of resources online. We have a hardware handbook. We have our normal playbook, which is kind of the basics of how to launch a crowdfunding campaign, and a lot more if you're interested. And I think we have some time now for Q&A. And if you have any other questions that we don't get to, I'm easily reached at ben@indiegogo.com. Thank you.